Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you all to our council meeting of February the 11th. And with us today for the first time as our city clerk, is it not working here? Is Jason Prévost. Welcome. And sitting to my right, we have Councillor David Torgman, Councillor Mike Cohen, Councillor Ruth Kovac, your Mayor, Mitchell Brownstein, myself, Councillor Dita Burku, Councillor Stephen Erdely, Councillor Sidney Benizri, Councillor Mitch Kajavsky, the City Manager, Tanya Abramovich, Associate City Manager, Nadia DeFuria, and Co-City Manager, Jonathan Schechter. So I'd like to welcome you all to the council meeting. I see we have our Member of Parliament, Anthony Housefather, here. Welcome. Always welcome. We have Commander Olivier here. Welcome. Thank you. It's great having the police presence. And see also a lot of wonderful residents. Nice to see you back, Dr. Tonchin. It's been a while. You're welcome. Good to see you. May everybody be healthy and happy in the new year. So we're going to start off with question period, but I did want to say that at the last meeting, I felt that question period was not efficient. And I want to make sure that everybody understands, we all know we have that rule, the 3-minute rule. I hate imposing it. I don't like it. But the reality is we have staff, we have a meeting after this meeting, we have to go back, they go back to work after we're done this meeting, and we need to have some order. So we're going to try to respect it to the best of our ability, meaning you have 3 minutes to speak, I respond, and then you have another 1 minute after that. So everybody gets fair treatment, nobody gets something extra, and then somebody should feel that they didn't get what the other person received. And I do have quite a few questions, and I want everybody to have a chance to speak. So before I start with the questions, though, I do want to just take one moment to acknowledge with great sadness the passing of Roger Benoit and Simon Benoit, tragically this week in Côte Saint-Luc, due to, we believe, carbon monoxide poisoning. And it's very sad. It's a sad loss for the community. It touches all of us when we lose anybody, and particularly when this was an accident of that nature. We were all very touched, and we give our strongest condolences to the family. We as a city feel that we want to do more. We continue to do what we can to help residents have smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors. We have VCOPs where we do patrols, and we're going to do more to try to help avoid these type of tragedies in the future. That being said, we'll go to the first question, and I'm going to ask with great pleasure Dr. Tonchin to go for the first question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of questions, and one of them is what I heard from the provincial government, and I don't know if it's accurate or not. They have no laws in the provincial government for the handling of subways, etc. Subways, cars, public cars, and so on. I don't understand how the government can run without any rules and regulations. Have you heard anything?
I know that Elizabeth Prass is here. Thank you for being here. She's sitting right to your right, Elizabeth Prass. She's going to, you can go sit and make sure he sees you.
I work for David Birnbaum.
So she works with David Birnbaum.
Okay. Okay.
So she'll speak to you afterwards, offline.
You give me an answer here, even.
Yeah, no, Dr. Tonchin, she'll speak to you offline because it's not a municipal question, but she is here and she'll speak to you offline afterwards.
Why offline? I want it online.
No, because it's not a municipal question. It's not a municipal question. You'll speak to her right after on that. But do you have any other questions for me?
I don't understand.
No, because I'm not clear of the question. It's not a municipal question, so I don't have the answer.
Can you not find out the answer?
I can.
Why can't you find out the answer?
No, she's going to speak to you outside.
I don't want to speak to her outside. I want an answer now.
I don't have the answer.
You don't have the answer, but the answer is here from the provincial government. You can't get it any closer.
I'm not sure.
Okay, my understanding is that in regards to the metro lines, it's the STM who's responsible, so it's actually the City of Montreal. The Quebec government has, jurisdiction over buying Metro cars and submitting bids, but we don't have.
You don't have any laws
jurisdiction.
with the running of the Metro cars.
That would be up to the city of Montreal, the STM.
That's the ESPN.
Yes.
And the province has nothing to do with it?
Not beyond buying them. As far, I mean, I have to do.
Okay, Ms. Prass,
But yes.
thank you, and thank you, Dr. Tonchin. Now I'm going to call Mr. Ittman.
Let's speak.
Mr. Ittman, please.
I don't understand.
And I thought I was bad.
It's okay.
It's okay. So I have 30 minutes for my questions?
Yeah, I know that's what you'd like, but that we can do privately.
All right, a couple of questions and then a comment, please.
Sure.
Tempos. Do you have any facts or figures, I should say, of how many tempos there are to date?
Yes, Councillor Erdely?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to bring it up later on in the reports, but as of the end of January, we're up to 114, which is up from 98 where we were at December 31st. So it's 114 permits, so for the winter, up until January 31st.
And this created a whole hullabaloo, 114, and it does me my heart well in our seesaw weather conditions, how people now have a better quality of life. And I also went on my own on Carleton in Côte Saint-Luc area, where there are multiple tempos, as well as duplexes, and I found out something. One is some duplexes have a very big tempo, so in other words, they're cooperating, and some that is only one tempo, and there is approximately 10, 12 inches of snow, so it wasn't so bad as was portrayed, that it would cause arguments, etc.
Council's very pleased. Next question.
Next question. We are now approaching 90 days that cannabis is legalized. In October, November, we were told that Côte Saint-Luc will produce a bylaw within 90 days. Has Côte Saint-Luc written anything yet
No.
about anti-smoking, etc.?
We said we would consider if we were going to do anything, and we're maintaining our existing bylaw, so whatever applies for smoking applies to cannabis. We haven't changed anything at this point, right? We haven't changed anything? There's been no change.
As far as parks, public areas,
At this point in time, everything is
condos,
the same as whatever applies to smoking applies to cannabis. Right.
so it's not
there
been
are certain areas, like we're still debating what we want to do. We might go further, but it would apply to smoking and cannabis.
All right. I attended a conference with Jean Charest. Very, very interesting gentleman, very fluent and intelligent in his thinking about global affairs, etc. There was a question and answer period, and naturally, you know my favorite question about Cavendish, and it's not the question that I'm for or against it, but it's time that all levels of government stop playing with the people. He told me that when he was premier, he ceded the Hippodrome, the Blue Bonnets area, to the city of Montreal, to Mayor Tremblay, which, as you know, I attended, and you don't like seeing the paper, that it was supposed to be completed in 2012. And I asked him, so? He says, well, I'm out of the picture now, and so is Tremblay. So we're back to square one. And then my favorite saying is, we sent a man to the moon and got him back. And you know what his answer was? Quote, sometimes it's easier to send a man to the moon than to deal with some of the mayors. So my question is, and I know you've written in the Suburban, and I attended the consultation meeting, we are not congested in the Cary corridor. We're constipated.
It's 3 minutes.
We're
3 minutes. I know what
yes.
the question is, so
My
make it shorter.
question is, what are concrete plans for north-south roads, east-west roads, etc.
Right. So I did get a letter from Valerie Plante, believe it or not, directly to me, concerning a meeting that we're having this Wednesday with Benoit Doré, with Philip Waugh, with Alan Caldwell to discuss Cavendish. I'll report back on what I hear then. But yes, it came directly from the mayor.
So basically, it's still just committees and
Well, it's directly from the
discussions.
mayor. I got that letter Friday, and the meeting is Wednesday.
Okay. Now a personal comment, if you might, I don't know what my timing is. I timed myself at home, by the way.
We're way over 3 minutes.
I entered into the municipal politics 27 years ago, and as you know, and many of you are here, I attended religiously and brought up many issues, not for myself, but for other people. I dealt with and sparred with and questioned and discussed with Mayor Lang, with Mayor Libman, with Mayor and now our member, wonderful member of Parliament, Anthony Housefather. By the way, Mitsumi said house fire. You sent me an email quoting civility. You sent it to the wrong person. You remember the days when there were 4 or 5 police officers, and there were people saying, put the cuffs on, put the cuffs on. You remember, that was incivility. For 27 years, I've been extremely civil, not only here, but in my whole life. Personal, business, community, industry,
I've
and
never said
politics.
No, Mr. Richmond,
So my
I sent you an
point is,
article.
excuse me,
There was
I'm not
nothing,
finished.
My email never
My
criticized
point
you.
is,
My email was very
you sent
apologetic.
it from the town manager
Yes,
to me.
it was very apologetic, my email
No,
to you,
no,
saying I didn't want
but
you
you
to
wrote
leave.
about civility. Now, I'm telling you one thing.
It's an article.
I'm taking a back seat. I'm leaving it now to the younger generation, you have some here, to social media, to other ways of attending meetings and bringing up policies. Thank you so much. Life is very precious.
You're always welcome.
Life is very fragile. Let's make the best of life. And I wish everybody a happy Purim, Bona Pasqua, Joyeux Pâques. And remember, we live in the best city in Canada. We have extremely wonderful, wonderful facilities and activities for every age. And it's always a beautiful sunny day in the neighborhood.
Thank you. Mike D'Alessandro,
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
welcome.
My concern is about, I live on Trinity Street, and the lights have been off there for over a month. And it's because they knocked down one of the lampposts. And I called the Public Work and waited a week, nothing was done. I went to see them on February the 1st, and I spoke to Mr. John Monterio, and he told me on the following Monday, on February the 4th, they were going to put up the pole, and then they will call Hydro-Quebec. It never happened. Now it's 11th of February. What happened to the pole?
Okay, I have to take that under advisement. I don't have an answer for you. Does anybody around this table have an answer? Because I don't. I'll have to check that out.
This is for David. You're our counselor there. Yeah. Oh, you don't know nothing about it. And the fellow I spoke to, I have his business card, and he told me they knew everything about it. The lawyers sent letters to the contractor and all this and that. But nothing has been.
I'm
In the
not-
street, if you go there at night, the street is so dark. There's ice on the ground, and you can even see where the ice is.
I'm taking note of it, and we will follow up.
Well, I hope.
Yeah.
And the other thing, we received a letter about removing the container on Trinity Street. It hasn't been done. They pile snow there that looks like garbage, all dirty snow on the lawn. It's not on my lawn, and I mean, what kind of things they're doing? They do whatever they want. And the letter stated that the blocking of the street was going to be 1 or twice Every day it's blocked, every day.
I'll have the Director of Public Works call you tomorrow.
Because they get a crane in, they block the street.
Okay, I'll have the Director of Public Works call you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Ariel Abitbol.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
After considering different communities for our family, my wife and I chose Côte Saint-Luc despite higher housing prices and the fact that we still have the welcome tax here. But we love the community and we came here. After about a month of moving in, we had the dirty sewage water backflow in the basement. The damages weren't major, but we discovered that it's a crack in the main drain, which would be obviously very expensive to fix. And we were told by members of urban planning and our city councilor that in neighboring communities, part or if not all, then part of the cost of repairing or excavation, making a new sidewalk was covered by the city, but not in Côte Saint-Luc. And I wanted to suggest that we reconsider this, given the house is only getting older and the lifespan of main drains reaching their ends and younger families having a hard time affording all these upfront costs.
Okay, okay. Hopefully you have insurance for water backup?
So for damages, which like I said are not major, it's more the repairs which are expensive. Could be anywhere between $5,000 and $15,000.
So that's not covered by your insurance?
No, they don't cover repairing the drain. They cover whatever was damaged by the backflow.
Okay.
So you need a,
Yes, Councillor Kajavsky.
I might suggest you call Maître Schechter, who's not in the room.
Yeah, he is.
Jonathan?
It's to your
Oh, hi,
left.
Jonathan. I believe Maître Schechter might have some information because there was precedent set with regards to insurance companies paying for a portion of the repairs due to.
So the resident's absolutely correct that the insurance will pay for damages. They won't pay to necessarily repair your pipe, the cost of repair itself. But what you may want to double check, and it depends on which insurer you're with, you may want to double check to see if they'll pay for some of the excavation costs. Because it's been our experience in the city that some insurers will pay for some of the repairs. As you stated, it could be anywhere between $5,000 and $15,000, but some of those actual costs to access the pipe, some insurers have actually paid for. So it may be a good idea to press the issue, especially if you are looking.
And if you need any further assistance from Maître Schechter, you can contact the resident directly tomorrow in terms of
Sure.
advice or
If I could just
communication.
add, so regarding the specific insurer, I'll definitely check it out. My question is more that neighboring, I was told like, for example, Hampstead or a big part of Montreal, the city will either cover all or some of the costs. So it was more at the city level. I'll check with my specific insurer. But in general, I was wondering if we should reconsider it, given that in neighboring communities, it's not the case.
Well, we're always reconsidering everything, so,
Okay.
we'll see what the situation is with respect to residents in general and our infrastructure. But thank you.
Thank you.
Tamar Hertz.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here again to ask about Côte Saint-Luc's municipal policy concerning clubs that are being supported with our public resources. Unlike what has gone on so far, this issue must be taken seriously and reviewed by the council. No resident should be spoken to by their elected representatives, as was displayed at the last council meeting, and it is unfortunately too much a part of our local political culture. The separate but equal doctrine that is being defended by the mayor and the Parks and Recreation Councilor is an arcane, outdated policy view that has no place in 2019 modern government. The basis of your flawed policy rationale, offering free space to organized groups based on sex, sexual orientation, religion, and other interests, while turning a blind eye to the individual charters of such clubs, would suggest that there could be a Côte Saint-Luc heterosexuals-only club that actively bars gay people. Clearly, this makes no civil sense, particularly that the city is not able to impose any standards on the clubs, even though we support them with extensive resources like free office space, meeting rooms, event space, and employee support hours. The claim that this free rent is in exchange for providing reciprocal services that the city would otherwise have to pay for even increases the implied responsibility that these clubs should be bound to operate in a non-discriminatory manner. I requested a written copy of the city's policy that you outlined to me in detail at the last meeting and was informed that one doesn't exist. This inconsistency confirms to me a practice of ad hoc governance that requires serious change. Clubs that choose to discriminate within their right to exist must operate as genuinely private clubs. I encourage all our council members to act in the spirit of and review the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Quebec Charter of Human Rights and Freedoms to assist and guide you in figuring out if the allocation of our public spaces for clubs to promote and operate events that openly exclude people based on gender is appropriate municipal policy for our city. I'm asking that the council create a sound municipal policy that is coherent, non-discriminatory, lawful, and fiscally responsible.
Thank you. Listen, we've been giving this an awful lot of thought. You came to the last meeting, it was the first time that it was brought up. Now you're bringing it up again. I've taken it personally as something that I deal with directly with the men's club, and I spoke with them too to learn more about their policy and what went on, because I wasn't totally up to speed on all the changes over time. I know they've evolved a lot in the 25 years that they've existed, and I see evolution towards the future as well. So I understand, and my concern is for all Côte Saint-Luc residents and for those that aren't in Côte Saint-Luc. So I want everyone to be happy, for sure. But at the same time, we respect the autonomy of the club. We do. Up till now, we respect the autonomy of the club. All Côte Saint-Luc programs are open to all, irrespective of, age, sex, whatever. But independent clubs like this have rules that maybe, people don't everybody approve of. If they changed their rules and they were a seniors club and they decided not to be men and women, so then they would not be allowing people under the age of 55, and there would be people under the age of 55 that would want to come, and then those people would say, well, you're discriminating against us because we're under 55. We let Hadassah women or Imuna women use our facilities on occasion for free of charge when they're doing good community work, and they only allow women. So, every independent club has their own rules. But what we would like to do is to see what we can do as moderators, me personally and our city staff, to try to make people happy as much as we can, while still recognizing that our clubs are independent, which makes it difficult. If it was a Côte Saint-Luc program, we don't feel it's up till now, this council does not feel that we are providing a Côte Saint-Luc program. They would have to be open to all. We allow our clubs to run their own programs. Now, the men's club has run it this way. As I say, they gave me a list of all the things that they do that they allow women into, and I can read some of them to you because they gave me that list. They have bridge and the writing group and the photography group and evening events and art classes and computer classes and discussion groups and poker and building flying drones and hot stove discussion group and bowling league and golf outings and night events and morning events and travel events, and most of the things allow women to attend. At present, some don't. Are we in favor or against? We're not saying that we're in favor of it or against. We're saying they're an independent club. But at the same time, we want our women to be happy, and if they want to attend, and this club doesn't want them to attend, all we can do is act as brokers and explain to them the concerns of the community. I, at this time, am not ready to impose anything upon a club that we deem to be independent. But I'm not saying that your ideas, your concerns aren't valid concerns. They're concerns. But we view them as an independent club. So I'm happy to speak with them. I'm happy to be a broker with them, to talk to you about your concerns, have staff talk about your concerns. But at this point, we're still treating them as an independent club. We do receive from them, as I said, with like free volunteers that run all those programs that I just mentioned, plus all the breakfast meetings and the travel and the gala and all that stuff that they do, if we did it as a city and we paid for it through staff time and hiring teachers, we would be spending in excess of $100,000 from the numbers I'm getting from staff, which is far more than any rent we could charge. So we are getting a lot from this group. Are they acting appropriately according to the standards of 2019? It's up for debate, but we consider them independent because all of what we receive from them for free. Basically, they do it all, and we don't pay them to do it. And our community, yes, in many respects, in some respects, only a certain segment of the community, because it's only men, but to a large extent, men and women are also invited, so that group in their own way are providing a lot to the community at large, men and women, and men only. So they do both. So, but we don't want anybody to feel that, they're not welcome, so we'll always speak on behalf of the city in terms of trying to solve this problem, but we don't want to impose anything upon an independent club.
Well, I don't think that your role should be as a broker. The role should be as governance. And so does this mean that the city, that without actual city policies in place, this council is going to continue to create ad hoc arrangements regarding the use of city resources by groups without any regard to the group's charter?
We always, all the clubs that we have in our city right now, we've vetted all our clubs and we're happy with them, and any new applications for use of space we would vet before allowing them to use our space. But we've gone over 3 minutes. So I guess we could talk offline if we want to talk further.
Thank you very much.
Okay, if there's no further questions, we shall go to the agenda. Item number 1, approval of the minutes.
So moved, Mr. Mayor. So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Cohen. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Any business arising? Now the movement of the departmental reports. Councillor Kovac.
So moved, Mr. Mayor. From
Seconded.
the Eleanor London Library down to the police department.
Seconded by Councillor Cohen. Okay. Now, any discussion? Any discussion on the departmental reports? Who wants to go first? Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a few general reminders. First reminder that the first installment for municipal taxes is due on February 27th. The second one is due May 28th. A reminder to those residents who are paying online, please try to make the online payment a day or two before the deadline, because sometimes when the payment is processed, it could take a day or two, and we don't want anyone to incur interest charges. So as mentioned in the documents, please try to pay a day or two in advance if you're doing it online, just to make sure there are no issues there. This year, for the first time, and you may have seen the video that was produced by our Director of Communications, but there's information on our website about how to sign up to be able to view your tax bill online. This is the first year we're doing it. So residents are encouraged to take you need your current tax bill to do it, because there's certain numbers on there that you need. Once you've done that the first time, then for future years, you can see your tax bills online. You can choose to only get them online. For those that are snowbirds, it'll make it much easier if you want to see your tax bills. And once you start doing it, you'll actually be able to see it for every year. So you'll be able to see for years moving forward, and you'll be able to go back to the time you signed up online, to that first year. With regard to dogs and cats, I wanted to share that last year we have the final data. 807 dog and cat licenses were handed out in the last year, in 2018. We'll see what the numbers are for this year. I was going to mention about car shelters, but I mentioned it earlier. And one last thing I wanted to mention in District 4, that I hope people have had a chance to go out and use the outdoor skating rink. One of the nice things this year with the very cold weather has been that the outdoor skating rink has had some very good ice. I've had a chance to pass by quite a few times, seen many people using it. And of course, the longer the cold weather continues, the longer we'll be able to have outdoor skating. So if you're in the neighborhood It's at Schwartz Park on Côte Saint-Luc Road between Smart and West Luke. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Councillor Kovac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This past Saturday night was the annual Valentine's Day dance, which kicked off Winter Carnival. And next Sunday is the big day in the park, and it would start at 11:30 with the Figure Skating Club giving a beautiful exhibition. And it's also the pancake breakfast, which raises money for the Ronald McDonald House. So I encourage everybody to come, and if you do have a breakfast, which is free, it's nice to make a donation, and then avail yourself and your family of all the activities that are taking place in the park. Let's just hope that we have a little bit of a rise in temperature to what we're expecting, but we will have a lot of snow, so come and enjoy next Sunday.
Thank you, Councillor Kovac. Councillor Torjman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a small plug for the great space at the Eleanor London Public Library. It's a great place to go for children, young adults, older adults, for the full spectrum. We have simple circuits, a session on that, robots, robot building, screen printing, all kinds of 3D printing animations that can be done. It's really a fantastic place to go, and I encourage you to go check that out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Torjman. Councillor Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Equinox large high-rise apartment building, phase one, of course, has been completed for a number of months now. We've been working. I want to thank our urban development department for working with us, because there's been a lot of noise from their temporary generator that's been keeping people up, and our department's been really good, and we hope that that's been resolved. There has been a demolition permit issued, and they've begun demolition, so Tower 2 is now slowly underway, and we'll be getting more news soon. Just a little piece of news about the Côte Saint-Luc Cats Committee. We work 12 months a year. Recently, we got a call from somebody in an apartment building in the village area. That's near, I still call it the Deli Boys area, Councillor Erdely. But an elderly lady had passed away, and in her apartment was a dog and 3 cats. And our committee was called to help, and we were able to get 3 of the dog adopted right away, and we were able to get 3 of the cats. They were very frightened and very upset because their mother had left, and we were able to get the cats into the vet nearby, and within days, all 3 of them had been adopted. So we're very happy. So another nice story about animals being rescued in our city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. Anybody else? So moved and seconded. All in favor of the departmental reports? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Item number 5, Eleanor London Côte Saint-Luc Public Library. Councillor Torjman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby authorizes the agreement with the SPVM entitled Protocole d'entente sur la vérification des empêchements de personnes appelées à œuvrer auprès des personnes vulnérables, bearing number 2019-001. The Council authorizes the following employees to sign the verification request forms for volunteers in the library programs. Do I read out the names for this one?
The names?
Yeah?
Yeah, they're there.
Okay.
That's fine.
Janine West, Library Director, Justin Burnham, User Engagement and Volunteer Coordinator, and Kathy Bronan, Interim Manager of Family Community Services. That Council ratifies the agreement with the SPVM and acknowledges that the Library Director, Janine West, and her above-named substitutes have signed the agreement.
Moved by Councillor Torjman, seconded by Councillor Cohen. Any discussion?
This is just for the library staff to be able to perform background checks on specific volunteers and staff.
Thank you. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. 5B, Councillor Torjman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the Council hereby authorizes the City of Côte Saint-Luc to request a grant for financial aid from the Quebec Minister of Culture and Communications under the program of project support for the project in collection development for autonomous public libraries for the financial period of 2019 and 2020. The Janine West Library Director, or in her absence, Lisa Milner, Manager of Administrative and Support Services Library, be and is hereby authorized to sign all documents related to this request, in particular the agreement to be signed with the Department of Culture and Communications. That the Council confirms it will also auto-finance the budgeted amount for the acquisition of documents for 2019, which will include the amount allotted from the grant that will be given by the Minister. That the resolution shall be accepted for immediate action.
Moved by Councillor Torgman, seconded by Councillor Cohen. Any discussion?
This is just to allow the library staff to apply for grants related to the purchase of books.
Thank you, Councillor Torgman. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move on to item number 6, which is financial services. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the attached list of disbursements for the period of January 1st, 2019 to January 31st, 2019 for a total amount of $5,122,354.33 in Canadian funds, and that Treasurer's Certificate number 19-0041, dated February 5th, 2019, has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Seconded by Councillor Burku. Any discussion?
So just to give a few of the highlights, so this includes the purchase of a snowplow, a 10-wheel dump truck that can also be used to spread salt, some payments for the outdoor pool work at Park Haven, some snow removal costs and overpayment of taxes. And just as I mentioned, what happens in some cases is the resident pays their taxes and the mortgage company also pays the taxes. So just a reminder to residents as well that when you're paying the taxes, just to make sure that you're not paying the taxes and the mortgage company, because it leads to, of course, you paying twice. We do a refund, but it just creates extra work for everyone. Thank you.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move to item 7A. Councillor Torgman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the appointment of Vicky Edwards as temporary principal library clerk, white-collar auxiliary position effective January 5th, 2019. That the Treasurer's Certificate number 19-0016, dated January 14th, 2019, has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above-described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Torgman. Seconded by Councillor Cohen. Any discussion?
This is just a maternity leave replacement within the library.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Now we move to item 7B. Councillor Bin-Isri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the termination of employment of blue-collar auxiliary employee number 2236, effective January 21st, 2019.
Moved by Councillor Bin-Isri, seconded by Councillor Gajewski. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Item C, Councillor Kovac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the appointment of Maxime Girard-Lucci as the outdoor rink supervisor into a management position for a fixed-term contract, which was effective from December the 3rd, 2018 to February the 28th, 2019, and that the Treasurer's Certificate number 19-0037, dated February the 1st, 2019, has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Erdely. Any discussion?
Just to reiterate,
Yeah,
that,
sorry.
as mentioned earlier, it's beautiful to see skating in outdoor skating once again. We have in the annex in Trudeau Park, and we have at Schwartz Park. And who knows, we'll have to see for the future. We may possibly have more outdoor skating rinks if the winter conditions such as these continue. Thank you.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Item D, Councillor Kovac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the status change of Abdenour Hamadash position as a Côte Saint-Luc Aquatics Assistant Head Swim Team Coach for the contract management to permanent management, effective December the 17th, 2018. That Treasurer's Certificate number 19-0038, dated February the 1st, 2019, has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Kajewski. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Now we move to item E. Councillor Kovac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the appointment of Hila Rouvani as the Côte Saint-Luc Aquatic Strength and Conditioning Coach into a management position for a fixed-term contract effective January the 2nd, 2019 to January the 2nd, 2020, and that the Treasurer's Certificate 19-0040, dated February the 4th, 2019, has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Kajewski.
Swimmer.
Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously, and now we move on. That's it for all of those, right? We go on to 8. Oh, the Treasurer. 7F. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That's right. That's it. Go ahead.
Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the status change of Angela Marino's position as City Treasurer from contract management to permanent management effective December 10th, 2018, and that Treasurer Certificate number 19-0039, dated February 4th, 2019, has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Kovac. Any discussion?
So just to mention briefly, it's been a pleasure working with our City Treasurer, Angelo Marino. I've had the pleasure of work with him for 2 years now in the capacity. I actually had worked with him previously for many years at the English Montreal School Board, and worked with him before that when he was originally with the City of Côte Saint-Luc. So this is just to basically be a status change to go from him being on a contract to in a permanent position. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. So moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move to item 8. Maître Schechter, items 8A to F.
That's right. So I will announce certain results related to a series of loan bylaw registers that we had. I'll list the titles of the loan bylaws and then give you the results. The results for each one were the same, and the registers were all held together. So the loan bylaws are all entitled as follows. Bylaw 25 to 22, authorizing the loan of $137,000 to finance the cost, including professional fees, to repair the underpass located on Côte Saint-Luc Road, lot number P1054612. Bylaw 2523, authorizing the loan of $1,523,000 for the purchase and installation of various traffic lights and LED street lights at various locations, including professional services in the territory of Côte Saint-Luc. Bylaw 2524, authorizing a loan of $2,675,000 for various facility upgrades at Kirby Park. Bylaw 2525, authorizing a loan of $263,000 for the purchase and installation of a garage dome located at 7001 Nashville Road. That's our public works building. Bylaw 2526, authorizing a loan of $700,000 for the purchase of vehicles and equipment. And bylaw 2527, authorizing a loan of $221,000 for the purchase of heavy vehicles and heavy vehicle equipment. So the number of eligible voters for the register period being January 29, 2019, January 30, 2019, January 31st, 2019, February 1st through 2019, from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. uninterrupted. The number of eligible voters were 22,561. The number of requests required for a referendum was 2,267. The number of requests made were 0. Therefore, each bylaw that I listed has been deemed approved by the qualified voters and will be sent to the ministry, the Municipal Ministry of Municipal Affairs for their approval.
Very well explained, Maître Schechter. And now we move on to item 9A, which is another tabling for you.
That's correct. So in this particular case, I would like to confirm that pursuant to the new law adopted, the reports report for the 2018 calendar year on the application of bylaw 2497 entitled Bylaw Concerning Contract Management has indeed been tabled, and how the bylaw has been carried out is contained within a report, and that report has been duly tabled as per the law.
Thank you, Mayor Schechter. And now we move on to item 10A. Councillor Kovac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to read the whereases as well. Whereas Canadian Pacific Rail, CP, supports a community investment program focused on improving the heart health of people across North America, referred to as the CP Has Heart. And whereas CP has agreed to sponsor a program to be coordinated by the City Emergency Medical Services, known as EMS, focused on training the public in the skills of cardiopulmonary resuscitation and the use of an automated external defibrillator. And whereas CP has agreed to a one-time donation of $23,000 in Canadian dollars, as described in a charitable donation agreement. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby agrees to the terms of the charitable donation agreement between CP and the city and accepts the donation of 23,000 Canadian dollars, and that Council authorizes the following employees to sign any documents to give effect to the foregoing: the city manager, co-city manager, associate city manager, the general counsel, and the treasurer of the director of public safety.
Thank you, Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Erdely. Any discussion?
Well, Mr. Mayor, for many, many years, it's something that I think, before I came on council, I was running the CPR program for the city, and it's something that would like to see every high school child, every resident know CPR. The life you save could be your spouse, your child, your parent, and with this donation, it will enable us to offer that many more courses and open up a Hero in 30. You don't have to do a 3-day course anymore. You can do it in 30 minutes. So this is something that will be a big boost to our program.
Thank you, Councillor Kovac. So that was moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move to item number 11, stances to be next agglomeration meeting. Councillor Kovac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the council takes the following stance in view of any agglomeration council meetings to be held in March 2019 as follows: to authorize the mayor or his duly authorized replacement to make any decisions he deems necessary and in the best interest of the city of Côte Saint-Luc and its residents regarding the items on the agenda of the agglomeration council meetings to be held in March 2019, based on the information to be presented during those meetings.
Moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Cohen. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. 12A, Councillor Burku. You can read the whole thing.
Whereas this is a resolution to adopt proposed, basically to establish our position vis-à-vis the Quebec legislation banning the wearing of religious signs. So we're taking a proactive approach, and we're passing this resolution tonight. Whereas the Coalition Avenir Québec is currently proposing flawed and unconstitutional legislation, which according to their own publicity is as follows: religious signs will be prohibited for all persons in position of authority, including teachers. Whereas their proposed flawed and unconstitutional legislation is predicated in their own logic as follows: after 20 years of discussion on the subject and on reasonable accommodation, it is more than time to act and adopt legislation clearly establishing the secularity of the state. Whereas in the opinion of the Côte Saint-Luc Council, the proposed legislation infringes rights granted under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Quebec Charter of Rights in a way that is not reasonable in a free and democratic society. Whereas the Council of the City of Côte Saint-Luc believes that the state can be secular while still supporting all religions and those who have no religion, and the way an individual is dressed as a result of their religious beliefs in no way impacts such individuals' ability to provide either unbiased opinions or services in a secular state. Whereas the proposed charter will make our civil service less diverse, as the law forbids employees such as police, fire, and security forces and judges from wearing religious attire, even when such attire is required as a result of their religious beliefs. Whereas the City of Côte Saint-Luc is composed of people of many cultures, languages, and religion, and has no difficulty supporting all such cultures, languages, and religion, and has no difficulty with civil servants, whether or not they are considered persons in authority who wear religious head coverings and/or religious symbols. Whereas not one of the residents of our city has ever complained about the clothes, jewelry worn by our civil servants wearing religious attire. Whereas our city wants to have diversity, not only in its local civil service, but the federal, provincial, and municipal agglomeration-wide civil services as well. Be it resolved that the City Council of Côte Saint-Luc will vigorously oppose the adoption of any proposed legislation by the Coalition Avenir Québec related to ban any individual from wearing religious symbols. City Council of Côte Saint-Luc firmly states that this proposed Coalition Avenir Québec legislation violates the city's values of inclusiveness, tolerance, freedom of religion, of religious beliefs, equality before the law, and openness. And the City of Côte Saint-Luc will use all legal means to contest such Coalition Avenir proposed legislation if ever adopted into law. The city will furthermore invoke any exemption existing in such a law given our opposition to the law, and the city will completely disregard any use of the notwithstanding clause by the Coalition Avenir Québec in the event of a positive legal contestation. Furthermore, the city will never terminate or punish any employee of the City of Côte Saint-Luc for wearing clothing required by their religion, irrespective of any adoption of any legislation to the contrary.
Moved by Councillor Bercu, seconded by Councillor Benizri. Any discussion? First of all, I'd just like to say that, I want to thank Maître Schechter for helping in the drafting of this resolution. It was something that I was very much in favor of and wanted to be proactive. The City of Côte Saint-Luc has always been proactive whenever this issue has ever arose in our province. And we take it very seriously, as we know we have a community that is open, tolerant, and will always welcome people of all religions, ethnic backgrounds, and beliefs to our community. And whether they get apply for jobs to work in our city, we will never consider the clothes that the religious attire or symbols that they wear, even if they are applying for positions of authority. Any other comments? No? So moved in anything else?
Well, I just wanted to
Go ahead.
say that anyone who comes to the City of Côte Saint-Luc will see that we do have persons that wear a cross, that have a kippah, that wear a hijab, and we're all working together in perfect harmony. And I think that it is a very good place to work. It's the real world. It's the reflection of the society around us. And we're very pleased with the relations and with the services that are provided by our employees, and have never had any issue with religious attire. So I think that it's very appropriate that we adopt this resolution. It reflects the values of the citizens of Côte Saint-Luc.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move to item B, which is an addition on to the agenda of other business. Councillor Bercu.
Oh.
Or Councillor Erdely. Councillor Erdely is going to do this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has to do with a slight with modification to the tax rate for non-residential properties over $45 million. There was an error that was done, a clerical error. So I hereby give notice of motion that bylaw 2528-1 to be entitled bylaw 2528-1, amending bylaw 2528 concerning taxes and tariffs of the City of Côte Saint-Luc for the fiscal year 2019 will be presented at a later meeting for adoption. And I hereby table draft bylaw 2528-1 to be entitled bylaw 2528-1, amending bylaw 2528 concerning taxes and tariffs of the City of Côte Saint-Luc for the fiscal year 2019.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. And now we move into, that's it, second question period. And we have somebody who filled out a form. You don't need to fill out a form for second question period, but you're welcome to. So, Shoshana Moskovich. Second question period is supposed to be questions related to the agenda, but if you meant to ask your question before and didn't get a chance and you fill out this form, it's fine. So go ahead.
Good evening. I'm here because I moved to 6700 Avenue last year. And I'm having still problems crossing on the pedestrian because cars just fly by. They have no respect for anybody crossing. A taxi was driving just by, and I said to him, why you didn't stop? He said, look who I have in the car, a woman with a cane. I said, but I'm on the street. So that is not solved yet. Another thing is, I am handicapped, as you see, and there's no parking in front of my street. Why?
Okay. So it's very interesting. And I want to say that the exact two questions that you asked just now were asked to me from another gentleman who lives in your building yesterday at an event that I attended for the B'nai B'rith house. It was B'nai B'rith and Adath Israel have a dance for seniors. And this gentleman said the exact same thing, and I've been thinking about it since yesterday. We need to have that crosswalk protected, and we also should have some handicap parking around that crosswalk, which in effect would also create more visibility because it would always be used, and maybe that should be further away. So we're going to have to take this under advisement. It is a busy street, relatively speaking, for an area where we want people from that building to be able to cross safely.
Yeah, I understand.
So we're definitely going to have to study it and figure out a way to make it safer, and I thank you for asking
Another
that.
question.
Okay.
Since I moved, my family from out of town, where do they park? No parking for them. The parking on the street is for the people who go to the mall. Somebody comes and parks, I'm there all day because I cross the street. People park on my side of the building, and they run in to the mall, to the hairdresser, to shop, why they have parking and my daughter comes to me to pick me up, doesn't have parking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's
So
something that we have to
please
consider.
Think of the people
No.
of the building.
What's that? I mean, they're parking in the back. There is some parking in the back of your building. I don't think it's finished.
I don't know, my brother comes from New York.
Right.
Where is he gonna park?
Well, anybody who comes visiting you from out of town can get an overnight parking pass to park on the street. The question is, where would they park? Well, they'll be able to park either on one of the side streets or on the avenue if there's a spot, and they can get an overnight parking pass.
And the people who run into the mall, it's okay for them to have parking and not for us?
Well, right now, that type of parking is available to all. We're always studying the issue of parking problems and looking at different alternatives, so it's interesting to consider this area as a problem.
I would appreciate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's another, and our city manager might have an answer to one of your questions.
In terms of traffic calming, I know in the summertime, they put the plant pots to narrow, which actually had an impact. The problem is we can't use them in the winter. I believe we are looking into a flashing pedestrian
Crosswalk, protected. Okay.
for there. We can't be protected because it's not an intersection, but we are looking at the flashing one that we can use year-round, but we...
And we should also look at those spots closest to the building and maybe make them for handicap.
That's
Something-
that we're taking under advisement.
Take that under
In
advisement,
terms of
look
the
into it.
traffic calming-
Okay, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Mayor Brownstein, I have a few questions from the agenda.
Go ahead.
And then something else. You mentioned about carbon monoxide detectors. What exactly is there in the law? Is there a bylaw?
We don't have a bylaw enforcing carbon monoxide detectors, but it's something that council has now discussed that we're considering doing.
I think it's very important, very urgent.
Yeah.
I have two in my home, and I have two in my home in Vermont. It is something, it's a silent killer, as everybody knows, but terrible tragedy that happened last week, and I suggest that it really be put in the bylaw, and when the gentlemen come around the homes to check the smoke alarms, that they do enforce this. It's something that is very prevalent and important. 7D, E, and F. Can you explain to the population why from a fixed-term employment to a permanent employment?
Yes.
And what does it do to our budget?
Yes. So when individuals are hired, they're on a probationary period, and after that period is coming to a close, the city has this decision to make if they're going to keep them on as permanent or not. So when we decide to keep them on as permanent, we pass this resolution. So of course, it doesn't change the effect of the budget because they're already hired, and if they wouldn't be kept on, we'd be hiring somebody else.
So
But we consider them to be good enough to be made
Right.
permanent, so we keep them.
So in the fixed term, their benefits and everything are included?
Yes.
Okay. 8C. A couple months ago, we were told that there would be another consultation meeting for Kerwin Park. There wasn't.
We did have one, right?
No.
We had
In December, you had one, and there was supposed to be a final one.
We'll come back to the public with what we got. Hopefully, we're going to get everything in our tender that we put out. If not, but whatever we do receive as a project, we'll present.
So the reason why I'm questioning is because you're passing a bylaw for this 2 million plus, based on what plans? If the plans weren't finalized, I don't understand.
The plans that we are presenting are based on the consultations that we've received. We do have plans to propose to make our tenders, yes. And it's taking into account everything that was discussed at the consultation meetings. And now we're going to go to tender with those items and see if we get what we asked for in that budget.
And are we still on time for completion date? Can you speak into the microphone?
The only flaw, or what could be an impediment, is if we get the construction bids and they're insanely out of whack with.
Then we have to go back to tender.
In other words, more than the loan bylaw?
If we don't get what we're asking for, and it's, we'd have to go back to tender. I mean, you never can predict the future.
But the loan, the money stays there until we close the bylaw. So if we go to tender again, the money just, we have the approval from the government.
Right.
That's all that means.
It's interesting. Kerwin Park to improve the conditions so that our children can have better facilities and security, 1994.
Good. See, you're keeping your election promise.
Interesting. So 7 we did, 8 we did. Just a comment on Men's Club. I'm not a member, I'm too young, and you like that, eh? Whether it's 2019 or 1994, I see no reason why women can't be admitted to winter activities when the bulk of the men's club is down south. So really and truly, I would ask you, Mayor, to talk to some of these gentlemen who are on the executive.
I'm doing my best. I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I'm doing my best, and it's there. I mean, you know, we'll see what happens. I think they've evolved a lot. There are women involved in a lot of their programs, as I said previously, that weren't in the past, and I believe they will continue to evolve as time goes on.
The last thing, one of the last things, number 11, Kol hakavod, all the respect to everybody for putting forward this stance. I respect what you do, just respect what I do. We've always had diverse communities, whether in our own religion or other religions, and whatever it's not, if you remember a few years ago in Ontario, they said it's not what you have on your head, it's what you have in your head. And Although I'm going to take a back seat, I'll come back for certain issues that are very important.
You're always welcome. You're always welcome.
And Jean Charest, I just wanted to say something. He mentioned, when I was talking to him about, see, part of my agenda, 1994, I know you're giving me the eye, a comprehensive plan to open additional roads to our city to alleviate our traffic and access problems. Jean Charest said, you don't build a well when you're thirsty.
That's right.
In other words, we have constipation, and we didn't build our road system.
We know. And Côte Saint-Luc's big leaders on it.
leadership from.
We have a lot of plans
We need
to lead.
leadership from the West End here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else for questions? Dr. Tonchin, on the agenda.
I would like you, please, to look into the microphones once and for all, because it's not clear what you are saying or anybody is saying when they're up here talking.
Thank you.
Some people don't know how to talk on the mic, some people do. And you will have to adjust it, and you have to put your hands on your shoulders now and get it done once and for all.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further questions, I'll move for adjournment.
So move, Mr. President.
Seconded by Councillor Erdely, all in favor of adjournment? Councillor Cohen? We're adjourned.